Chad Eckert, but that's not Eric Martins. This is the Fantasy Golf Pod. Normally, we're cracking beers. Today, it's just 2 o'clock in the afternoon, so I got a Mountain Dew. Need that caffeine. I got a 12-week-old at home. Also, you will know, this is March 20th. We're in a bit of a weird spot. There's no sports. Our worlds are cold and they're dark, and there's no light at the end of the tunnel. Maybe June. I don't know. But what are we going to do? As content creators, we got to think of something. We got to occupy our brains and our time. And I thought, well, since we're forced into this off season, let's go to the range. Let's get into the gym. There's no better time to just get better at what you're doing. And how we're going to do that is we're going to bring in and talk to smart people in the business, someone that actually knows something. And today, I've got a real expert, a DraftKings analyst. Amazing. Reid Fowler, people. Reid T. Fowler is on our podcast. How you doing, Reid?
Good, man. Good. Like you said, there's a lot of stuff's happening right now. It's crazy. We got Brooks Koepka and Ricky Fowler and JT hitting left-handed. That's the kind of content that I think we need, right? It's like the
like
stuff,
it.
like, we need it all. We need to consume everything. So yeah, I mean, Madden simulators are out there, people betting on that stuff, marble races. You start to see though, the people who are really good at creating content like you guys. There's
we made that tweet yesterday. I was shocked. Somebody like 300 comments on it.
Oh yeah.
People are so bored.
I know. I think I had DJ hitting the drive. I had Furyk hitting my approach shot, which is nice. DJ gets it out there, Furyk with the wedge, and then Webb Simpson coming in. And if this was like 2012 Webb Simpson, then I would have been scared. But maybe. 2019 Webb Simpson, give me all of that. So
yeah, he'll make that.
Oh yeah.
Hey, you know what? I'm rocking my floral pattern for you. Reid Fowler, he loves floral patterns. He's from Hawaii. But you know what? I'm also rocking this coat. I'm not sure if you know us, but we're cold here in Minnesota. I live in Minnesota. I do this in my garage because I like to yell and get loud, and my wife's just in there and doesn't want to hear about it. So here I am. I'm wearing the rocking the floral. I'm out in the garage. We're here. But wait, we got Reid Fowler. Who are you? Where are you? Where are you in this world of Corona?
Yeah, so I'm, I guess, lack of better words, stuck in Massachusetts. More specifically, I'm in Boston. This is where the DraftKings headquarters is. So we're in Boston, which is, a hotbed right now, a little bit for
Do you got the hand sanitizer? I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so by the way, hand sanitizer and washing hands, why does it take this for everyone to realize that you should wash your hands all the time?
I'd be doing that anyway.
Right, exactly. So, but like you mentioned, I'm born and raised in Hawaii. I went to school in Colorado for 4 years up in Boulder. Went back to Hawaii because I graduated in 2008. So you can do some reverse engineering on how old I am. That was a bad time to graduate college. So I went back home and then, worked some odd jobs like all of us do right before we get into this. I was a loan officer for a bank. I worked at a health insurance company. I answered the phone lines. It was my first job out of college, making like $20,000 a year. And so from there to now being a guy who was just before this happened, I don't know if you can see it here. I got maybe it's on. No, it's on this side. I was at TPC Sawgrass at the Players. Got to, talk with a bunch of guys there and do some course previews and good, cool videos, Sawgrass and be on the ground.
I saw that. So you got to go out onto the course and be a part of it. DraftKings has now a sponsorship with the PGA Tour that allows you, Reid T. Fowler, to take advantage and get a little inside access. That's awesome.
Yeah. So
you were out there recording stuff. What were you doing?
Yeah. So we do a course preview every week. It might be actually now every year, judging how the schedule is going. But every week we do a course preview, and Mayo usually does the video side of it at his studios, at the PME studios where he's at. And then I do the written content that ends up on the fantasy page on the PGA Tour. But this was an opportunity that the PGA Tour and ourselves at DraftKings looked as the Super Bowl for the tour with the Players Championship. And so we took it upon ourselves to get down there, do a course preview on 18, and then some other stuff on 17. We had more videos, but clearly like everything happened and we obviously didn't want to send that out.
So you just scrapped the stuff that you were going to use on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or whatever?
Pretty much, which like is fine because everything was happening. But it was a great experience, right? Being on the grounds like at any tournament, not necessarily Sawgrass, where that's just the energy is so high, or not a major, is fantastic. So if guys in the DFS, it's when we do this from our keyboards and behind a camera and behind a screen, it's much different when you're on the grounds and you're in the media center, you're doing your research. Not every person is going to be able to do that, but it's such a different feel because you get into it. It's like watching shoot around or watching batting practice. There's a feeling around it, and you see guys. Yeah.
So you were out at the Honda Classic for the DFS Open. I know. Oh, yeah. Hey, listen, Reid. Dude, I got some people to say yes to talking to me. It's crazy. I got all of the dudes in your foursome. There's some names, juicy names. So what was up with the DFS Open? Was that fun? You're going to go back next year? Did you go on your own dime, or did DraftKings put you up there?
So I went on my own dime. DraftKings, okay. I have to pull a little bit more strings to get it. Well, first, right, it's proof of concept. Totally. DraftKings was saying, hey, look, if this is something that we can potentially get into, and I'm just, there's nothing official. I'm just, speaking on the top of my mind. But clearly, as DFS Open has a synergy with DraftKings, there's a pretty A to A comparison on our connection with that. So I went on my own dime because I wanted to see what it was like. I didn't want to go as a DraftKings and sort of be on the clock. And plus, the guys that did it, right, like Baroff and these guys and Moose and all of them who were doing it, Joe, these guys did a fantastic job. So I wanted to make sure that I just wanted to see what it was like. And it was great, man. It was great meeting guys that I've talked to a bunch. I've met Mayo a bunch before.
Well, you talk to them basically weekly too.
Yeah, exactly. And so just to get, to see these guys and to talk to the degenerates, talk to, all these guys. Kenny, Kenny is fantastic. The Kenny that you hear on the Fantasy Degenerates pod is a guy that you get. He's authentic. Amazing. He's fantastic. Gaiman, Raza.
Kenny, we might get to talk to him.
Yeah, all of them, man. All of them are such great guys. It's so much fun because look, like we can be doing this for 80 hours a week and doing our research and breaking it down like you guys do as well. It's just nice to actually play the sport that we're analyzing. So
did you play golf? I mean, now we can get into, let's start first, fantasy sports.
Yeah.
Is this like a goal and you ended up achieving your goal, or did you fall into this and now you're an expert analyst and you're like, wow, look at me.
Yeah. No, I mean, as a kid, I started playing sports when I was 3 or 4 years old. I was playing baseball. I think my mom put my brother and I in baseball, and all we had were sweatpants and like a hoodie. I think that was our practice stuff when we were kids. And so when I was 4, I started playing sports, and throughout my entire, adolescence, high school, not so much into college because let's be honest, like in Big 12 school, I couldn't play that because I played basketball. So my sport in high school was basketball. And in Hawaii, if you're above like 5'10", then you're considered a big man. No one in Hawaii is that tall or that big. Awesome. They're really fast and they're strong, right? They're all football players or MMA fighters, but not a lot of us are basketball players. But that was a sport that I really took a liking to when I was a kid, and so I played all throughout high school, and I played golf as well. But I was just a huge sports fan, and then for me, just watching SportsCenter every single minute that I could. That was always a huge goal. But if you're a kid from Hawaii, the last thing you think about is moving to the mainland, right? Moving to the States. We call it the mainland back there, but moving to the States and then living somewhere else and then working on this huge network that's just not in the realm of your reality. So my goal always, and I thought it was unattainable, was to be on SportsCenter, right? Like every kid who gets into it wants to be on SportsCenter who has a thing for media. So I did some stuff in Hawaii on the news. I was a producer. I interned on the news station, the local news stations there. And then when I got up to Boston with DraftKings, it wasn't my first job when I moved up here, but more and more I was doing a blog and just writing for my friends in our fantasy football league. And then more people started to, publicize it. I guess my friends started to share it. And then one thing led to another, and, I got the DraftKings. So it wasn't necessarily a goal because I didn't, 10 years ago, this didn't exist. 15 years ago, it didn't exist. But once you're in it, now it's, something that I do every single day.
Well, so I'm Reid Fowler. I am not only an expert, but I play my own lineups.
Yeah.
So, or whatever the disclaimer is at the
Right.
bottom of all your articles.
Yeah.
So you are a user of DraftKings. And have you ever won a hashtag MegaProfit? What's your biggest win?
My biggest win.
Or a memorable moment, like, I don't know, whatever.
Yeah. Well, okay, a couple. So I don't want to disclose my biggest win.
Okay, fair enough.
Because it's not even that big. But on the DK side, but my biggest, I think, victory lap, and I won't name names, is being on Mayo's show. What you get is just the ability to be seen by many eyeballs, right? It's such Mayo is such a fantastic ambassador of our industry.
Definitely.
Because he builds up careers as well. Like, if not for him, honestly, I wouldn't be here right now. He
said our podcast name on his show, and it like blew our minds.
Yeah,
and he responded to my DM about doing this, and so even that was cool. So
he's fantastic. One of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. Look, he's truly authentic. The guy that you see on the camera is, he's got a little shtick, but at the same time, he's he's one of the nicest dudes I've ever met.
And that's the way you do it. That's how you have to do it. Almost.
Right, exactly. And so when I was on his show, I forget what tournament it was. It was 2 tournaments last year. And so I remember. Yeah. Okay, so in the chat,
you went back to back on your sleeper pick or something? Yeah, dude.
Yeah, so
that was amazing. Chat, that was almost like a joke how lucky it was.
It's great. You get all these questions and comments, right? And you have people out there that either really like you or don't really like you. And so I had a couple of comments saying that, no one liked me, which is fine, right? It comes with the territory. You're in the opinion business. You can't
the troll business.
Give comments. I'm sure you guys get it too as well. Then you're in the wrong industry and you shouldn't get into this. But it was 2 hits. It was Max Homa and CT Pan. I believe that were like 300-to-1 hits that I got in like a span of 3 or 4 weeks. One of them was head-to-head where I took head-to-head. I took CT Pan, I think. Mayo took like Kevin Na, and he ended up hitting. And it was right after
CT Pan even won, dude. I think he won the tournament.
He did. And so it was right after these comments where people were like, Reid sucks. Like, get him off the show. And then this happened.
In your face, people.
Yeah.
A blind squirrel can find a nut.
I know exactly.
Well, okay, so that's kind of fun. And that, we take opinion, we spit things out all day, every day. I got, fighting back and forth with Eric, telling Eric his opinion is wrong, and it's like, is it though? Because it's golf, and we all know no one's an expert. But like, for your process, are you a 1 lineup guy? Do you play in the 20 max build contests?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a player pool? How's your strategy? What's your weekly process like on draft?
Yeah, so from the very start, I think it's so important. So guys see where we're getting into this, or even who are part of it, right? Who do it weekly. When the season is actually happening, is you need to start with the process, like anything, right? DFS is like anything. It's definitely evolved since it first started. And so the leverage on what you can potentially get is not as high as it was before. But from the very start, because I'm, writing the article, and that's another thing as well, is that I'm writing an article. So the process of me breaking down the article also clearly works to breaking down lineups, right? And so I look at the course and I break it down from a course perspective. So the same way I'm playing golf is I take it from the hole back, where, I'm looking at where I want to be in my approach to the hole, and then it's the club I use off the tee. And so what I do is I look at the course, I look at the length, the grass, everything, the specs of the course, to then get an idea of how many players kind of fall into that category. Like, any golfer can win on any given week. But as much as possible, I'm looking at the 155 field or whatever it is, 144, and I'm saying, can I take away, 15 to 20% of these guys just based off of course fit, or the season, in terms of what tournament that is, guys who do better in the Florida swing, yada, yada, yada. And so I take the course preview, and then what I do from there is I also look at the history of the past winners, and then correlations of the leaderboards of other courses that fit that description. So Josh Culp, the guy who started Future Fantasy and now writes for Roto World, one of the guys
he's on our short list. We're trying to get him.
I got to play with him. He was one of the teammates that I had down at the DFS Open. Really cool guy from Minnesota. So he's so he does a fantastic breakdown of some of these corollaries as well. and these grass types. So get a chance to look over at what he does. But we were talking and, looking at these leaderboards and how they can, glean some information on what guys do well in certain grass types, certain course fits. And then that, takes away another 15 to 20%. And then after that, when you have sort of this idea of a course and a player profile, then you start to use, like I use, what's the I can't believe I'm losing.
Well, I was going to say, do you have
Fantasy
access
National.
to, Fantasy National, of course.
Yeah.
Do you have access to stuff through your employer, DraftKings, or
No.
do they don't give you stats?
No, they don't give me anything. So that's why it's a huge disclaimer, right? That's it's something that I don't get at all. And so when I'm doing all of this analysis, I'm like you guys. I'm like the general public, so to speak, right, in terms of the information that I have. So I'm using Fantasy National and a lot of these other tools, Data Golf as well, that you start to see, right, how can you build this picture and this narrative around what golfers could potentially do well here. I start starring the guys right on Fantasy National, looking at values. But so much of it now, what I do that, in terms of player pools, and that's extremely variant. It's personal preference, depending on how many lineups I do. I usually do 20 lineups. I enter in a few contests. I do a single bullet, a single entry, the 3 max and the 20. But it depends, right? It could range from 6 to 8 players and then doing a scattered approach in the 6K range. Or it could range from 12 to 15. If I really like for the players, for instance, I had guys, probably 13 or 14 of players that I really liked, more so than others. But then a scattered approach down in the 6K range, because that tournament, you see guys that like a Rory or a Jay Day or Tiger Woods win it, but then you also see Siwoo Kim, Martin Keimer, who was at 90 to 1 when he won, start to win these tournaments. And so getting that picture of what type of tournament this is, fixing your lineup that way. But again, the last point I'm going to make about my strategy, so much of it is like game theory. Totally. But there's so much, because there's so much information out there. You guys put out information like who's made, most consecutive cuts, who's missed cuts. There's so much information that all of us are putting out and then all of us are receiving as well. A lot of it is game theory. It's playing poker, right? It's how many guys I'd rather fade a 20-35% Fleetwood at the Honda Classic and go with a Sanjay or someone else, because the game theory, whatever reason, because golf is so variant, if you can box out that ownership, that's huge. And so game theory is my biggest point of strategy.
And we're talking to Ben Raza tomorrow. Yeah. And I'm excited to talk to him because he's a big game theory guy and he kind of goes off that a little bit. So knowing that, I mean, it's an ownership game. You want to try to get leverage wherever you can, especially like you said, it's really variant. Now, do you gamble? Do you bet? Are you a bettor? Can you do that in Boston? You're allowed to, right? It's legal.
You're not allowed to yet. You're not allowed to yet. It's still in this legislature, and I'm almost certain. I don't have any finger on the pulse in terms of
you can bet if you want to bet.
Yeah, it's the same thing. Like I can talk to May. I'll be like, hey, buddy, put something on. Like bet 365. No, I do like everyone. But at the same point, that's what's so interesting about our industry and the guys that have got in early. This is going to be huge. And once it hits all 50 states or 48, 49, there's probably some outliers. I won't name the state. Yeah, okay, you did.
Sorry.
Even Hawaii too. Hawaii is notorious, and I love my home state, and I love my people there, but we are slow movers. We walk slow. We talk a little slow.
Yeah, it's the island way, man.
It's the island way. And so Hawaii might be along the lines of one of the latter ones to adopt it. But it's going to be fantastic. And so just getting on that side as well and using arbitrage, using markets, the odds of a tournament and superimposing that onto the DK pricing, you can find some leverage on guys who have better odds in the market, but then are priced cheaper than other guys who aren't, right? And so there's some things you can do by cross-referencing both.
Now, we think you are an expert. We think you might have some wisdom. You can pretend you do for the moment. What's your most important lesson from either working at DraftKings and playing around all these people, maybe even seeing guys do well or do bad? What have you learned? Yeah. What's that lesson?
Well, I learned that I'm not an expert at all in anything. And it's look, no, all joking aside, I think the biggest I've learned is your strategy has to change, right? Like, and not to get too, meta in terms of what we're talking about. Things change. Like the world changes. DFS has changed drastically when it started. You have to be able to pivot the same way teams in the NFL. You see Lamar Jackson and how that offense is extremely efficient. You're going to start to see a lot of copycats because it's a copycat league. When the Wildcat was happening in Miami, the more teams than not. When Chip Kelly came in with Philadelphia Eagles and had that run and shoot, more teams adopted it. And so with golf, it's not necessarily to that extent because, the industry and the game is pretty much the same as it's always been over the last, couple hundred decades. But you have to change your strategy, and being able to be okay with changing your strategy is perfectly fine. But then also have a stance, right? Have a stance on, if you really like players and you listen to, you guys or whomever, right? Any podcast out there, and I'm all over Cam Champ, for instance, at Sawgrass, and you're like, he sucks, man. He can't make a 10-foot putt. He was actually, and not to get too much on a tangent, I had a ton of Cam Champ shares at TPC Sawgrass. I saw him earlier in the week. I'm like, this guy looks fresh. He looks good. I like his form coming in. He had, I think, he was number one in stroke gained approach.
He's murdering it.
He had like 8 birdies and 2 doubles. And oh, jeez. And it's that kind of stuff, right? I have a stance on Cam Champ. I think he was 0.05% owned in the $5 max. And so, these stances that you can take too, if you really like players, if you have something, because that's part of the fun, man. It's breaking it down, and then on Thursday looking at the PGA Tour app, for better or worse, and watching, golf. I mean, that's the sweat, right? That's what you enjoy. And so, one, make sure the strategy and roll with the punches, and 2, if you have a stance and a narrative that you like, go with it, man.
Now, before I get you out of here, you're doing the sweat. It's DK's live daily show. You're with Mayo sometimes Wednesdays live. Hopefully hear a lot more. What else you got to promote for yourself? Give us a little bit of like, what do we got for Reid coming up in the future? And then I want to ask you about DraftKings, but what are you doing? What are you up to?
First things first, promote it. Wash your hands, everybody. Wash your damn hands.
You
30
people.
I know. Exactly. And social distance. God.
Get away from me.
I know. Get away. Go in the woods, like where you are in that background. That looks serene. That looks fantastic. There's no one there. It's like
this is in Silverthorne, Colorado, actually, at a golf course.
Oh, nice. Yeah, Colorado is fantastic. Yeah. So like what we were talking about earlier before we got on, there's a lot of free agency news in the NFL. So I started at DraftKings doing like a 60-second course preview every like once a week to doing NFL and PGA coverage. And so during the NFL season, it's all football. Right now, because there's no other content out there. But even if there was, right, we'd still be doing some free agency news. So a lot of stuff that we're doing when news comes out, as much as possible in terms of the resources that we have, you'll potentially see me talking more and more about football and what that means as opposed to PGA. But even then, right, it's also looking at other interesting things that we're doing at DraftKings. So for me personally, on Twitter at Reid Fowler, it's where you can find everything. I'm looking at it, it's the same like everyone else, right? Like we talked about earlier. It's like you're looking for new content. And so now is the time to do it. I'm venturing into like looking at what we can do with Twitch and find out if there's any value in that and if what people want. And some other cool things that hopefully that we can get squared away at DraftKings. But everything that I do, you can find me on Twitter like everyone else.
Right on. Now, DraftKings, they just teased us with that captain for golf, and then it was gone. Just as soon as they showed it off, they didn't put it out again. Can we put like a memo into the people, like tell your boss, get that? I want to do it every week. It seems fun.
I know. Well, the pricing one was a little off, right? They fixed that, and then they had it. But like that again, that's the cool thing with DraftKings. DraftKings is not going to get everything right all the time. But for the most part, right, they do. And when they looked at that pricing, they're like, okay, we need to change that. So, for better or worse, we tried it. I'm not too sure because I'm not privy to those for good reason. Right? I have no idea what's going on behind closed doors.
You're just a content creator.
I know.
You're just like a talking head.
I know. But
what do you know about
we had the tiers. the tiers contest.
Tiers was fun.
Yeah,
that was good. They needed to they needed to put everybody into the tier pool.
Yeah,
like but hey, it's again, they're trying, they're doing stuff. Now they got 2 months
to tries everything.
Look into doing more.
We got League of Legends coming in hot. We have a lot of esports coming in. So look, it's what you like about again. And this is not my employer paying me to say this. What you love about DraftKings, right, is that there's so much availability in what we're able to do in terms of when sports comes back. I think it's so important that as a consumer, as a fan of sports in general, is that this is one time, if there is ever silver lining, and I don't want to be insensitive into what's happening right now, but it's a clean slate, right, for everyone to take a step back and look at what's really important. But also too is our content strategy moving forward. It's going to be a ton of opportunity because people are going to be clamoring for content. They have been. It's going to be a opening of the floodgates, so to speak. And so, how can
That's
we?
That's why we're doing these interviews, Reid.
Right.
We're just pretending like we're doing something.
Exactly.
Get my mind occupied. I'm going crazy in there.
Yeah, us too. But we'll see.
Dude,
there's going to be a ton of stuff hopefully coming through the pike.
Good, and we'll follow you, Reid T. Fowler, and we appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. This is pretty interesting.
Of course,
time of our lives. So maybe these interviews will bring some entertainment and joy to people. And maybe you'll learn a little something and then you can apply it to your DraftKings once you can start playing again.
Absolutely. Appreciate the time.
Thanks, Reid. Talk to you later, dude.